how the algorithm learns you and uses it against you. You don't choose what you see online. You train the system that chooses for you. Every pause, every click, every reaction teaches it something about who you are. And once it understands you well enough, it doesn't need to control you. You start doing that part yourself. Most people feel that something is wrong, even if they can't explain it. The internet feels different now, louder, angrier, more exhausting. You scroll through your feed and see the same ideas repeated again and again, the same arguments, the same emotional pressure points, the same outrage recycled endlessly. At some point, it stops feeling like you're discovering information and starts feeling like information is being filtered before it reaches you. Most people assume this is just culture changing, that people suddenly became more extreme, more divided, more emotional. That explanation feels comfortable, but it's not what actually happened. This shift didn't come from people, it came from systems. The internet didn't suddenly become emotional, it became optimized. Modern algorithms don't care about truth. They don't care about balance. They don't care about what's good for you in the long term. They care about one thing: engagement, not what you say you like, not what you believe about yourself, not what you think your values are, what your behavior proves you can't ignore. This is the part most people misunderstand. The system doesn't learn you through opinions, it learns you through patterns. And those patterns are built from a handful of behaviors you repeat every day, usually without noticing. The first behavior is what you stop on. Even a brief pause matters, even half a second. From the system's perspective, a pause means attention. It doesn't matter whether you agreed with what you saw. It doesn't matter whether you hated it, you stopped. And that pause tells the system this worked. The second behavior is what you react to: likes, comments, arguments, sharing something angrily, hate watching content you claim to dislike. Strong emotion is the clearest signal you can give. From the system's point of view, anger and excitement are equally valuable. Both keep you engaged, both keep you present, both keep you scrolling. The third behavior is what you return to: the topics you keep circling back to, the creators you check again, the themes you never fully escape, even when you try. Together, these three behaviors build a profile, not of who you think you are, but of how you actually behave. And behavior is far more useful than intention. Once that profile exists, something subtle begins to happen. The system starts showing you more of what fits it. Not because it's accurate, not because it's balanced, not because it represents reality fairly, but because it works. This is where repetition becomes powerful. The human brain isn't designed to evaluate truth constantly. It's designed to recognize patterns. When you see the same ideas again and again, they start to feel familiar, and familiarity feels safe. Over time, familiarity begins to feel like truth, not because you consciously agree with it, but because it no longer feels foreign. The same narratives appear, the same emotional framing repeats, the same conclusions resurface, just phrased differently. Eventually, you stop questioning them, not because you're unintelligent, not because you're weak, because that's how perception works. This is usually where people say things like, just ignore it, just scroll past, just think for yourself. But that advice misses the real issue. This isn't about willpower. The system doesn't need to convince you of anything directly. It doesn't need to argue with you. It doesn't need to prove itself. It only needs to shape your environment. When certain ideas appear constantly and others quietly disappear, your sense of choice narrows without you noticing. You're not forced, you're guided, and guidance is far more effective than control. This is the part that makes people uncomfortable. Once the system understands you well enough, it doesn't need to push content aggressively anymore. You start pulling yourself deeper. You click before thinking. You react before questioning. You return to familiar patterns automatically. At that point, influence becomes invisible. And invisible influence is the most powerful kind. Even knowing this doesn't make you immune, because awareness doesn't stop habits. And habits are exactly what the system feeds on. This isn't about fear. And it isn't about paranoia. It's about understanding the environment you're operating in. You can't navigate something if you refuse to acknowledge how it works. The goal isn't to escape the internet, and it isn't to reject technology. The goal is to stop mistaking optimization for reality. Because once you understand how these systems learn you, you start noticing when your attention is being shaped. And noticing is the first step toward choice. This channel exists to make these systems visible, not to scare you, not to sell you solutions, not to tell you what to think, but to explain how these systems actually work when nobody is trying to manipulate you with optimism or fear. If understanding that matters to you, subscribe. This is only the beginning.